Yes. So welcome all. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everybody from all over the world. Welcome to Arab English Teachers Association. I am Shawqia Hawawre from Palestine, the president of this association, which was established for upgrading our teachers uh, situation, and in order to be in contact with many educators all over the world. Welcome another time, and we welcome before we begin our guest speakers from Palestine, the supervisor from Qalqilia, Palestine, Mr. Bassam Juma, and the couple or his wife, Miss Nasra Juma, also, and they will deliver a presentation and a lecture titled Effective English Teaching for Young Learners. First of all, let's also welcome other attendees from all over the world. And let's introduce our guest speakers. First of all, we say welcome to Mr. Bassam Al-Qadoumi or Bassam Juma. He is an English language supervisor at the Directorate of Education in Qalqilia district. He supervises about 72 English teachers at schools of various levels and 3 schools as a cluster. He also gives training courses to groups of teachers in designing education and classroom practices, in addition to various courses assigned every year by the Ministry of Education. He has a lot of certificates as the English teaching methods from Al-Quds University. He has MA, and he is English language and literature from An-Najah National University. He got his BA from this university. Also, he has other certificates. He supervises at the Directorate of Education, and also he was before that an English teacher. He has many skills like organizing festivals and occasions of different sorts, and he is using the computer especially for educational purposes. Welcome, Mr. Bassam, and thanks another time for accepting our invitation. Now let's come to Miss Nasra Juma. Also, she is an English teacher from Palestine, and she is still a teacher in the Ministry of Education, and she is teaching the secondary and the primary classes. She established a drama committee in English language, and fortunately, she won a global award. And also, she is a scout captain, and also she won many competitions in her directorate. She has a BA in English language from An-Najah University from Palestine, and also she has the diploma in her CV. She has a lot of skills, like the skill of communication in different ways, and she has also many strategies, and she organizes or she created many educational aids, games, either using computer or without computer, and also she uses many electronic applications in order to engage her students, and also she is in contact with the local community. Thanks another time for accepting our invitation, Miss Nasra, and
You're
thanks another
welcome.
time for our attendees from all over the world. And I hope that you will enjoy and get benefit from this session. As you know, English language is very important. And as educators, we want to learn and to know how can we teach English effectively in order to engage and to inspire our students inside and outside classes. Thank you another time. Now the floor is yours. You can share your screen and begin.
Thank you, dear. Our title today of the session is Effective English Teaching for Young Learners. So the first slide says, tell me I forget, show me I remember, involve me I understand. Is it sharing, Shawqia?
No, no, sorry for interruption. You can begin sharing your screen. It is not shared.
A minute.
Yes.
Yes.
Should be sharing.
Do you see it? Can
No,
you see it?
not yet. Not yet. Yes. Open your presentation first, then you can begin sharing. Yes, now it is visible. Go ahead, please.
Tell
Yes.
me I forget, as I said before, show me I remember, involve me I understand. We are going to talk about effective ways teaching young learners. Being a teacher or a mind architect, it takes from you. You take the role of a father, a mother, a friend, and another complete family. Your job is to construct humans. You should be wise in your behaviors, words, and tone. Being a teacher also, with such a status, you can raise a student to reach supreme stature just with a word. One of the most humanitarian and merciful specializations. Your mission is harder than a doctor's, and the greatest and the most honorable mission, manufacturing humans. Now, teachers are the ladder of students' success. As we all know, all teachers, doctors, engineers, in all aspects of life, they start like students and they were teachers who taught them at one specific day. There are five things that a teacher should work on first. Building convictions, which includes creed, principles, values, ambitions, and understanding of life in general. Directing interest, which includes what occupies the pupil's mind and how to spend the free time. Developing skills, all sorts, including aesthetic, artistic, mental, social, or scientific. Also, a main thing that you should have in teaching, you should work on first, understanding rules of relationships, who to be a friend or to avoid, and how to start, fix or end relationships. Choosing model is the last thing, those high ideals who a pupil look up to be like and understand the laws governing dealing with the models. I'm going to discuss another thing, which is mainly the types of learners. We know that learners are different, they learn differently from one another. When people identify the learning, we have, as I said, 7 different types of learning styles. When people identify the learning style that suits them best, they tend to stick with it. However, research has shown that the most effective study comes from blending different learning styles together. We have visual. Visual learners do well when they use symbols, boxes, charts, and colors in their notes. If you find that you learn better by reading and looking at pictures, diagrams, and graphs, etc., the chances are you are a visual learner. Verbal, we will move to the second type of learners, verbal. Techniques used by verbal learners are reciting information out loud, writing your own notes and highlighting the key points, having passion for words writing, and tongue twisters, rhymes may indicate that this is learning style for you, which is verbal. Oral learning involves using sounds and music. If you use your ears, then you are oral. Auditory learners develop understanding and memory by hearing and listening. If you find it is easier to understand spoken instructions rather than reading, oral learning will benefit you. Physical, the fourth type. Physical learning involves using your body and sense of touch to learn, like doing experiments, especially for science. Physical learners learn by doing, touching, moving, building, and are described as a hands-on. If you find it difficult to sit still for long periods of time, chances are you're physical learner. Logical. Logical learners often learn by asking a lot of questions. Logical learners want to understand the whole picture. They are natural thinkers who learn by classifying, categorizing, and thinking abstractly about patterns and relationships, etc. The sixth type is social. Social learners prefer to learn in groups rather than on their own and like generating ideas by brainstorming with others. If you like taking part in a group, sports, and prefer social activities than doing things on your own, you may be a social learner. Solitary. Now, solitary learners tend to be more independent and introspective, spending a lot of time on their own, enjoying their own company. If you enjoy spending time alone, keeping a journal, and engaging in self analysis to gain a deeper understanding of yourself, you may be a solitary learner. Now, I'm going to move to the incentives of learning for a student. We have five types or things to talk about. Four, sorry. Interest, choice, pleasure, and challenge. You have to have these four things. Arouse curiosity and attract the learner to learn effectively, to know his interest. The choice, let the learner choose the suitable learning style for himself. Pleasure, provoke the learner's enthusiasm for learning. Challenge, stimulate learner's abilities and urge him to do tasks. Let's see the principles of effective English teaching. Aim or objective. What is the reason for this lesson or session? Mainly, you must have an object that you want to achieve from this session. And you should make the students aware of what is the target achievement before you start teaching. This gives them something to focus on and helps them concentrate on the class better. Your aims should be SMART. I mean by SMART, it is an abbreviation for something. The S for specific, the M for measurable, and the A for achievable, and the R for relevant. Then the T, finally, the T is for time framed. You should take care of these five elements about your aims. They should be SMART. We all know about Bloom's taxonomy, that which starts from the bottom to the top. We'll talk about remembering, and which is recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory, understanding, making sense of what you have learned, applying, use knowledge gained in new ways to apply things. Analysis, we are rising up to the, let's say, from the easy to the difficult, the more, and it's getting more and more difficult. Analysis, it is breaking the concept into parts and understand how each part is related to one another. Evaluating is making judgments based on a set of guidelines. Creating, which is putting information together in an innovative way. Now I'm going to talk about the level of the students. You can't expect all students to be at the same level of English. They will also have different capabilities to follow the teaching of English language. It's not just on related to teaching English, the level. The level is related to all materials, to all subjects. Not all the students are having the same level of the material, of comprehending the material or observing it. So your lessons need to be planned and executed as inappropriate for the level of the students in the class. So you should take care of the level. You will need a dual approach here. The study materials should be flexible to cater for specific learning needs, while your teaching style should be inclusive for all levels of students, regardless of the fact that are stronger in some areas or weaker in others. Pace and variety. The best planned lessons are conducted at a pace suitable to the students' group with a variety of tasks included in it. This fact holds for any level of teaching. Two, you should make sure you understand the pace of the class, whatever the age and the capability of the students. Your teaching English language should match their absorption pace. Be prepared to change it for a different session, but don't let it falter. Also, you will need to move around tasks and exercises. Your your lesson plan should have flexibility to add or remove things if you feel you need to. And moving to the next slide, which is progress. As you continue teaching English as a foreign language, the learners should pick up skills progress in their journey and continue to improve their language skills. Each lesson should make the students feel that they are one step closer to their aim. Take care to build in an assessment in the learning plan to check the progress of your group. Assessment is an important issue over here in progress. Correction. Your students are learning a new language while you are teaching the English language. There will be errors that require to be corrected and relearned. However, remember, you must ensure to avoid negative criticisms that may embarrass your students and they may choose to leave the class. You should propagate constructive feedback. And I think embarrassing the students is a very bad way of dealing with them from a teacher. I don't like embarrassing my students. I like to keep motivating them and pushing them for success. Correction by other students can be very helpful, and you should always encourage students to see their mistakes and correct them themselves. This also this is also a great way to learn from mistakes. Make it a point to appreciate students when they are correct and keep them motivated. Motivation is an important issue in teaching. Encouragement. Be the inspiration of your students to learn. Proper encouragement and appreciation will go a long way to keep the students interested. Gently but firmly push your students to perform to the best of their abilities. And I think that some of the students are inspired of a specific teacher and they go ahead, they move on. They feel they let's say practice success because of this inspired teacher who inspired them once in their journey. Bring out the shy bunch so they feel empowered and stir all students to take specific roles in that. So everyone has an equal chance to contribute and develop. Don't let any student control the classroom, but all the students should have their chance, especially the shy. Get to know the difficult students. Yeah, I might get to know the difficult students and them to pull them out and stimulate them to progress. It may be the reason why they work better with on-one attention that may lack social skills or may even have medical issues. Create an engaging learning environment. Your classroom should be comfortable and happy space. As a teacher, you will be responsible for the look and feel of the environment. This will include decisions involving the environment, the materials, and the social integration of your English language. Learners, ELLS, promoting language learning. You will be responsible for planning the instruction and support of your students' English language teaching. Learning a new language often feels daunting and it is a time consuming process. Learners will get disoriented if they don't get quick results or feel outside their comfort zone. However, continued motivation and correct levels of engagement while teaching the English language will drive the learners to work hard, persistently, and learning the new language. As a teacher, demonstrate that you have expectations of success for all your students. Student achievement has a direct correlation with the teacher's expectations of success. So once you set the expectation and communicate them clearly to all the students, this will motivate them to perform at a high level. Empower students to take their own relationship, to take ownership. How does it feel to own your learning? You have formed a deep relationship with the language, which has promoted you to teach English as a foreign language. Pass on the deep love and connection while teaching the English language and help your students learn at an accelerated rate. Encourage them to find their path and work within the peer group. Let the class group realize that they can learn themselves and work with their peers. It will have a positive impact on both their effort and achievement. With your support on owning their English language learning. And last slide, different students and different instruction. Each student is an individual and is different. So sometimes individualized tutorials may be just what is called for. So depending on the student, you may take up a smaller group for more effective instruction. This format normally works well when conducting sessions online as students can take up a self-paced course and focus on a specific areas of the curriculum where they need to pay more attention. And now I'm going to give the mic to my colleague, my husband. Okay.
Okay,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. Thank you. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you who are attending our webinar, hoping that you will benefit from the presentation. And believe me, English teachers mainly, you have to believe in yourselves that you can do it. Following these instructions will help you so much in achieving your aims. And we are not here just يعني publicity or propaganda. We are here talking about real life situations that you have to follow and be aware of. So, continuing, you have to know your learners and you have to be aware whom you are teaching, and you have to know well, you know them well as individuals. And as we have seen before, we have different learners and we have different learning styles. So you don't deal with the students as one category. As a teacher, you will need to establish a relationship with each of your learners. So you will learn the basic background information about your students. For example, students' families, languages, cultures, and educational backgrounds. This will be effective in engaging them in class and prepare and deliver your lessons more effectively. Teachers also have to collect information about their students' linguistic and educational backgrounds to determine the correct placement for students. Where do you place them? Where they fit best. You will be able to use this information as a resource for learning as well. And as we have seen, each student will bring in something unique to the class, his heritage or life experiences. Your prior knowledge will help you determine what gifts and talents students bring to the group, what interests motivate them, and the opportunity to tailor your instructions for the group and successfully teach the English language. You also have to design high quality lessons. Students have also to expect something new from you. You shouldn't you shouldn't follow each routine every day. Students should look for something new. The challenge for English learners or as a foreign language is to learn a new language while adjusting to a new environment. So what is your most challenging task as a teacher? Well, I would say that it is teaching English as a foreign language. And believe me, I know very well that it is a very hard, challenging task. But as a teacher, you will need to plan meaningful, in-depth lessons to promote language learning and to help students develop their language skills. These will help students develop their learning strategies and critical thinking skills. These lessons evolve from the learning objectives. The content of the lessons will play an important part in the entire learning process. You should also uh, believe or know that there are techniques for making your lesson more appealing and easily understood to your group by using first visual aids, which is often easy to process information when there is a visual stimulus rather than an auditory stimulus. And as we have seen, we have different learning styles. So when you use more than one approach, you can target more than one sense. You will get your information to the students easily. Your ELS are not familiar with the language. So using visuals facilitates communication easier and lessons are easily understood. And we have a saying in English which says a picture is worth 1,000 words. Group work, as we have seen before, while teaching the English language, you need the class to be engaged. With teacher-led in-class instruction, while the class is divided into small groups yielding results, students can practice the language with peers in a more intimate, personal, and lower risk, instilling more confidence in the student. And believe me, in my work as a supervisor, I suggest this technique to the teachers, and they always complain that it may cause chaos or students will make noise. But if you give them used to this and it becomes as a technique of teaching for you, once they get used to it, it will benefit them more and more. You also have to work with the silent period. Learning a language will be a challenging task. Adjusting a new place and a new culture adds more burden. There may be a period where the English language learners may not want to or feel comfortable sharing or speaking. Allow them this period while you continue teaching the English language. Just be aware of making them feel part of the class so they will willingly open up and integrate within the class. You also have to be aware of sentence frames. Sentence frames are a great way to practice language skills, especially conversations. The idea is to work with partially uh, finishes sentences. For example, I'm not happy, etc. said because, and this demonstrates to the student how to structure a sentence. You have to make them produce. If you just depend on presenting and practicing without letting students produce, your teaching will be, lacking something. This demonstrates to the student how to structure a sentence, an effective exercise that can be adapted for practicing speech, spelling, grammar, etc. You also have to learn about their heritage. And as the students learn a new language, a good way to integrate the class is to learn their heritage. This is a good tool for you to understand the diversity of your class, and also it helps you to know about the various cultures. This is particularly useful to decipher unique cultural traits and language nuances, which may also affect learning a new language. Uh, an essential point is pre-teaching. When you are going to teach any specific piece, especially reading, give the material to your students early. You have to make them aware, and you have to ask them to prepare in advance what you are going to teach. If you plan on showing them a video, send the link a day before. And we have the teams now which can allow us to do this. This will allow them to review the material before reading or watching in class. They would be more likely to understand it better having had the chance to review it beforehand. Then it will be a better informed lesson in the actual class. Using technology to motivate and interest students, especially in our situation now after the corona time, and the technology is highly integrated into our teaching. Motivation is a massive part of learning and adapting to something new. Some of your students will come to class intrinsically motivated. Others will rely upon you to build the interest and provide motivation. So you have to know your students and give help and motivation to those who need it. So how do you achieve that? For adults, securing a job and a new career may be a persuasive factor. But then you have the younger generation. They, for instance, may enjoy the prospect of socializing with English-speaking peers. So this is a suggestion that you make them socialize with other English speakers. We have also the technology today to meet everyone's needs. While the young adults would be excited about changing their Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat profiles to English, similarly, adults would have platforms like LinkedIn. There are varied sources of viewing options available to sample from as well. No matter the age group, technology will provide an option to go along with lessons. So you have to set up an English speaking peer groups. And it's very important when you divide your students into groups to make them speak in English, not to let them speak Arabic while in an English class. The best way to learn, practice it yourself and learn from your mistakes because practice makes perfect. The best way to practice is by having a group of friends in similar situations to share with. Setting up peer groups fulfills all these objectives and is also a fun way to facilitate speaking. Your students can talk and discuss real life situations. You can also create group projects so the groups spend maximum time with each other. But you have to be careful that the project has a purpose and each student derives maximum benefit. There should be an outcome of the project and it should display what the students have learned. Your role is these would be to supervise, advise, and assist if required. So here the whole work is left for the students and you have to engage them in one way or another and give them tasks. Also, you have to build and maintain a classroom library, and this is a material which they should be or they can benefit from. Reading is an essential element in teaching English as a foreign language. So reading helps improve vocabulary, fluency, and teaches about the structure of the language. There is a lot of benefits you can derive from this one single exercise. Unfortunately, not all students will have access to the library. So a good idea would be to create one in class. This will allow you to assign books suitable for the student's level and interests. This will also allow you to utilize any extra time left over after a lesson in a fruitful manner. You can also use this library maybe you can assign some stories or books for students to read some stories or write a research about a topic or another. So you can use this library in a fruitful way and in a helpful way. And this is a very important issue we are talking about. The students should speak. This is a problem that we lack in our English lessons. How much time is left for the students or allotted for the students? How much time do our teachers take? Teaching the English language, you are aware that student talking time has to be maximized during the class. This will ensure that your student can develop English language skills. The more time they have to speak in class, the more comfortable they become with the language. And as a result, they are likely to use more English outside. And believe me, our students in our situation, they don't have that chance to use English outside. So the only outlet for them is to use English inside the English class, thus achieving the primary objective of teaching English as a foreign language. By maximizing student talking time, you are showing your students that they can take an active role in class and are learning to hold their end in an English language conversation. Once the idea instills in their minds, they will be English and also it will boost their confidence. So we are talking about teaching tip sheet. We have 10 tips on becoming a more effective teacher for you. The first tip is you have to continually examine your instructional practices. And this is a way of reflecting on your practices where you need to change, modify, or maybe improve your teaching practices. You also have to communicate a sense of urgency. And I mean by that, you have to cut out unproductive activities, keep expectations high, monitor progress closely, and give students the supports they need before they fail. So you have to keep monitoring your class, adjusting to their needs. You also have to communicate high expectations while recognizing students' needs. Communicate that you believe that they can succeed. Don't let them down. Keep encouraging them. Keep motivating them. And differentiate instruction to meet individual needs. And you have to also keep increasing your knowledge. This is our teachers lack this. Adopt a lifelong learner mindset. The more you know, the more your students will benefit. So learning doesn't stop at a fixed age or a fixed certificate. Learning is a lifelong thing that you don't have to stop. Recognize the positive intent behind challenging behavior and redirect students to more appropriate ways to reach their goals. Focus on the three C's. Be a caring, attract a creative and courageous teachers. And you have to tell your students why they should learn what you are teaching. You have to justify your teaching. Answer the questions, what's in it for me? You have to also consider doing the opposite of what you feel like doing. I mean, sometimes you feel like you need to scream or shout or sometimes hit a student. You have to do the opposite. So instead of screaming, you have to whisper. Instead of kicking the student outside, you have to give him or her a mission to fulfill. So you should do opposite to what you feel. You also have to engage your students in the classroom community, and this is very important. Don't leave any student neglected by giving them jobs and roles and providing them with multiple opportunities to interact with peers as they learn. So don't neglect any of your students. And a very important and last, model what you want to see in your students. You have to be a model to your students because students like to imitate their teachers. So kindness, respect, thoughtfulness, and enthusiasm for learner. And as you see here, the mathematical equation, creative teachers plus creative students equals better learning. This is a saying by Vicky Samuel. So we come to planning skills, and you have to have these planning skills when you plan your lessons. As you know, you have to specify your aims, you have to analyze the content, set the homework, and it's very important, don't ever leave your students without homework. Determine evaluation style, as we will see in a coming slide. Determine teaching strategies, choose learning aids, and analyze learners' characteristics. This is very important when you plan lessons. We have so many difficulties in teaching English as a foreign language. L1 interference is a very important issue that we have to deal with, and we have to cut down as much as possible in using L1 the Arabic. Translation is a very serious problem or difficulty that we teachers, unfortunately, they tend to maybe facilitate learning by translation. Believe me that you are harming your students than benefiting them. Evaluation is a very serious mistake, and this will not provoke or stimulate education because students tend to study or to learn just to pass the exams. So you shouldn't just depend on evaluation. We have a writing difficulty because writing is one of the neglected skills, and we have to concentrate on it, and lack of practice, as we have said. Students don't have the chance to practice the English language except in the English class. So we come to types of evaluation, and this is very important. You have to be aware of. Evaluation is classified according to the period when it is conducted. The period, I mean the time during the class. So it is classified into three types. The first form is formative evaluation or assessment. It is used to monitor the learning process of students during or after instruction. Summative, it is given at the end of a course or a unit, judges the fulfillment of objectives, and is used for assigning grades. The, the usual exams or tests that we conduct at schools. We have the diagnostic evaluation. It is given before instruction and aims to identify the strengths and weaknesses of students regarding the topics to be discussed. And diagnostic is mainly for determining the students' needs before giving a course or something. And how can your learning be active? This is very important. Active learning is a process whereby students engage in activities such as reading, writing, discussion, or problem solving that promote analysis, synthesis, and evaluation of class content. And as we said, students' engagement should be as much as possible during the English lesson. The nature of active learning. Now, there are diverse range of alternatives for the term active learning, like learning through play, technology-based learning, activity-based learning, group work, project method, etc. Above the factor behind these are some significant qualities and characteristics of active learning. So we have so many principles of active learning, and it involves cooperation between learners, I mean students here. Students are the center of the teaching process. Students are occupied in tasks and activities, interaction between learners and teachers. And we know that the role of teachers here should be just supervisors and helpers. You have also to provide sufficient time for learning. You have to activate appropriate assessment tools, and we have said place high expectations for learning, encourage learning based on active learning strategies, consider multiple intelligences. This is very important, and students are the center of the teaching process. Now we have two kinds of learning, passive learning and active learning. In passive learning, 10% of what they learn, 10% of what they read, or 20 of what they read, or 30 of what they see, 50% of what they see and hear. Define, list, describe, explain, etc. Demonstrate, apply, practice. In active learning, they start analyzing, defining, creating, and evaluation. And in active learning, the students learn 70% of what they say and write, and 90 of what they do. Remember the saying that we started with? Involve me and I will understand. So it's very important that you have to involve your students in the learning and process. And at the end, you have to remember that children learn best when they like their teacher and when they think that their teacher likes them. So you have to build, as we said, the teaching or the school is their second family. So we have to like them and to make them like you. And you have to respect your students to make them respect you and accept their mistakes, since they are neither angels nor devils. And you have to avoid marking students. As we said, we have the idea of multiple intelligences. So according to this idea, there are no stupid or not intelligent students. They are divided into multiple intelligences. So there are no such stupid or doesn't know or cannot students, since it is the worst educational injustice. Thank you all for listening. I hope that you have benefited from this presentation. Now we are open to discussion, and any comments from you are welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bassam and Mrs. Nasra. It was a fruitful presentation. I hope, as you said, that that they get benefit from it. And now you can raise your hands if there is any comment, any question, in order to ask for the couple. If there is any question, please raise your hand. Any comment, any inquiry. Yes, I encourage you to ask them, because one of them is a teacher while the other is a supervisor. You can ask them from their point of view. What is the difference between the opinion of a teacher and a supervisor, for example, in looking for how to teach English effectively for young learners? Is it the same or it is different? Yes, I want to ask you this question, Mr. Bassam. As a supervisor, how can you encourage your teachers to encourage in their turn their students and learners to be an effective learner?
Okay, first of all, I encourage my teachers, as I said, to follow the three B's plan. Uh, as we have said, the three B's is present, and let the students practice, then let them produce, and it's very important. So yeah, unfortunately, most of our teachers, they stop at the point of the second B. They present something and they let the students practice. So they don't encourage them to produce. So in order for the teaching process to be effective, they have to encourage their students to produce.
Eh,
I mean,
Sorry for interrupting.
even if you are explaining a language lesson, don't just depend on the sentences that are in the student's book. Let the students themselves give you some sentences on their own and apply the rule that you are explaining. And it's very important, as I said, that you have to give the students most of the class. I mean, the lecture type or the lecturing type in the English class from the students' perspective, from the teacher's perspective, sorry, is not acceptable. I mean, I attend some classes, and I noticed that it's the teacher who is speaking from the beginning to the end. They
Yes,
don't.
so the students are passive
Yeah,
listeners, while
they
the
are
teacher
passive
is
learners.
always speaking.
They are just
Yes,
receiving information. They are not participating or sharing.
yes, yes,
Most of the period, the 40 minutes should be given to the students. I want the students to practice. I want them to read. I want them to analyze. I want them to produce.
yes, yes.
And
So the TTT
that is
should
how
be
they become
minimized.
productive.
I said, I mean, the TT, lead teacher talkative time, should be minimized in order to let our students talk and participate effectively and
Yes.
positively. But But there is a problem. I here talk as a teacher of English. You said that you encourage your teachers in order to encourage their students to talk more and more in the English class. But when we explain the English lesson, for example, in any skill, vocabulary, reading, language, whatever, okay, they share, they participate. But when we ask them, for example, to give us an example, they stop sharing. Why? What is the problem? What are the challenges that we face? As me, for as a teacher of English, for example, they lack a vocabulary. They don't have the bank of a vocabulary that enable them to use to use language within context. So,
Not only this,
especially,
Mrs. Shawqi, not only this.
yes, it is what,
They lack
son,
the courage. They lack the courage.
The
They
confidence.
yes,
are always
yes,
afraid of making mistakes
yes,
because
yes, yes.
sometimes the teachers may make fun of them or their peers. They make fun of them. They don't encourage
So,
them.
so
So
especially
so
in
they are
this,
shy. They are shy to be
yes.
criticized by the
So,
teachers or by their colleagues not to speak because
yes. So,
you criticize them. So here you
yes.
have
In
to
my
give them the
opinion,
chance and the encouragement to practice more and more. And believe
yes,
me, if you let them get used to using English since earlier grades, they will,
yes.
step by step, they will become active learners and they will become active participants in your class.
So I think as an English teacher, I think that group work here is very useful and helpful, especially for those shy students that you mentioned. As for me, I practice this strategy inside our class, and I see that those shy students become motivated, and they began sharing and participating in the class because they work cooperatively, and they communicated with their peers, and they had the self-confidence. For example, even though they are weak learners or low achievers, when they communicate and cooperate within the teamwork, they, for example, they can write the answer, they can talk it, they can, for example, draw. So it is very helpful to encourage this strategy in order to motivate our students.
Yes.
Yes, thank
And
you. Now,
we are starting a training course this year, and we will also continue it the coming years. It's about learning correct pronunciation. The target is the teachers themselves, because we noticed that as supervisors that some teachers use incorrect pronunciation, and once
yes.
they give
Oh,
this correct pronunciation to the students themselves, it will become fossilized in their minds. So it
yes,
will grow with them.
yes,
So this is
yes,
something that we have uh, will
in
have
our,
effect. We believe, inshallah, next years on our teachers and on our students when they are taught
yes.
correct pronunciation.
Yes, as you know here, because of the of COVID-19, it has affected our students very much because there was a closure of schools, and the periods of teaching here, especially in Palestine. I talk about Palestine, and also in many parts of the world. And also now, for example, in Palestine, there is a strike, and there is in many schools there are or there is no education. So I think that it affected our education process negatively. So as teachers, we should bear in mind how can we motivate and inspire our teachers. For example, we can meet them in teams. We can use global applications in order to inspire, to engage them in the education process. And many other strategies. Now let Miss Ghadir ask a question. She is raising her hand. Please,
Yes,
Miss Ghadir,
Ghadir,
go ahead.
yes, Ghadir, you can.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum
عليكم
assalam.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
First, I want to thank you all for your effort, and it was very nice and clear. But I have one question.
Yes, go ahead, please.
But the voice is very low here.
Really? Our
Yeah,
voice is very
I want to know
We can hear you.
is
We
it
can hear
is
you
it
loud
low?
and
Is it low for all or only for me?
no.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. If the class is a theoretical, what should we do? I mean, what are the activities that may help us to make the lesson more effective?
If the class is what?
A
Can you repeat?
theoretical, there is no activities to make. It's only to give the students the information. For example, the theories of translation, this subject. How could we manage the lesson?
I don't
We
get
don't understand your
your question is
question,
not
I
clear.
guess. Yes, it is not clear.
How to make the lesson more effective. I don't want the
Yes.
students to be bored.
Which lesson? Which lesson?
Yes.
Do you mean, for example, can you specify a skill, for example? For example, the
Okay,
vocabulary skill, the
okay.
language
No,
skill?
When I
I
was
get
a student,
I get your point.
theories of translation was one of the most boring classes because we have nothing to do, just we listen to the doctor.
Okay.
Yes.
As we, if you followed our presentation, we presented more than one activity to make your lesson more appealing to the students. You don't have to make them bored by following the same routine every day. You have to bring some in with you visual aids. You have to bring in, for example, a video, maybe a poster, maybe
Oh,
visual aids, whatever. And you also have to make your students always look for something new in your class. Maybe if you change the way that they are sitting, if you divide them into groups and mix the groups each time that you give your lesson, this will give them a sense of new things and new ideas. You have to involve your students, and when you are monitoring your class and see that they are bored, you have to change the way that you are dealing with them. You have to make something, yeah, or
You mean
change.
I have to let them share with me
Yes,
in
yes,
explaining,
yes,
you
even
have
if
to
it
let
is for the
your
first time they
students
heard.
be involved. Your
Okay.
students should be involved with you. You don't have to follow the lecturing way. This is
Mm.
how students get bored. But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they are involved in your class, believe me, they will be effective learners and they will be motivated.
yes,
inshallah.
yes. I want to add something more. For example, as for this problem, I tried many strategies, and they or my student think that they were very helpful for them. For example, using games in teaching either vocabulary, for example, language, reading strategies, etc. Even the shy student, the shy students or the low achievers also become better and better. For example, also using the little teacher when you engage, as Mr. Bassam says, and illustrates that you should engage your students inside the class. For example, I encourage always them. I always encourage them to be as if they are teachers, and also I acted as if I am a real student. I many times sat, for example, in their seats as a student, and my students, or one or two of my students, they become the teacher, and we act as if we are real teachers and the students. In this way, they began preparing, for example, for the the vocabulary lesson. They prepare the meanings, the pronunciation, the examples on them, pictures, preparing PowerPoints, etc. And always they are motivated in order to be in this role. So use many strategies in order to engage your students in order to upgrade their proficiency and their levels.
Yes. And as we said before, you have to let the students take pleasure in learning by presenting it in a pleasurable way. I mean, your mood as a teacher will be reflected on the students. If you enter the class being bored, feeling that it's a burden on you, it will be reflected, believe me, on your students. But if you are entering with high spirit and with a good mood, and you arouse curiosity, you arouse interest in your students, you attract their attention by, I mean, icebreakers that we have to follow, and something that the warm-ups that you have to use each time you enter the class. You will provoke the learners' enthusiasm for learning because they are meeting or they are having something new each time you enter the class. So you yourself, you shouldn't be following the same routine every day when you deliver your English class. Others?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Ghadir. Yes, now let's come to Mr. Jagan or Mrs. maybe. Yes, please. The floor is
Yes.
Again,
yours.
Good
You
Khan.
evening.
can open.
Yeah. Good
Good
evening. Can you hear me?
evening. Hi.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Mr.
yes.
Bassam,
Go
it's
ahead.
been a very interesting presentation. Like many attendees
Thank you.
here, I am curious to know how to reduce or minimize L1 influence in the classroom, both by the teacher as well as the students. I work in a Saudi Arabia university. So I find most students trying to translate from their mother tongue into English, and it is sometimes not connecting. It doesn't make sense sometimes. So at school level or from university level, what tips do you advise so that we can minimize the mother tongue influence when they speak English?
Okay.
Thank you for this
Uh,
question.
okay. As we have introduced in our presentation, I mean, you are teaching English. You
Yes,
are
I
not
do.
you are not expected to use Arabic or any other language, the L1, the mother tongue. I sometimes used when I was a teacher, and maybe my students used to object because I'm using English in most of my class, and they used to go to the headmaster or the advisor, the counselor, and they used to come and talk to me. So I used to tell them, what will you say if a science teacher is teaching history? Is it okay? They will say, no, yeah, it's not okay. It's like that. I am an English teacher. You want me to teach English in Arabic? This is not an acceptable method. If you are teaching English, you have to get them used to this. And I know that it's difficult at the beginning, but once your students get used to it, your students have to follow you. You don't have to follow your students. I mean, it doesn't start from upper classes or from the university. It starts from lower or from primary classes. Students are expected to hear English in order to be able to speak English fluently in their English class. But once you get them used to translation, they will not understand you. They will not even try to understand the English that you are speaking because they are waiting for your translation. So once
Yes.
you get them used to hearing English in your class, step by step, believe me, they will adapt themselves and they will start to follow you step by step. So it is a gradual process that we have to follow, minimize the L1 interference and until you reach a point where it is يعني it doesn't exist. You in an English class you only have to use English and encourage your students to use English.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Mr.
Mr.
Bassam.
Sam.
It was great. It was great
You're
explanation.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
You are
Thank you, Mr. Jagan. Thank you. Now let's come to Mr. Muiz. Now you can go ahead and ask your question.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم
عليكم
السلام
السلام.
ورحمة الله وبركاته.
First of all, I want to thank you a lot for the awesome presentations. I'm Muaz Zughlemi from Tunisia. I have taught English for 20 years. It's an awesome presentations. Here we have, just in particular in Tunisia, of course, for the beginners, okay, who are 7 and 8 years, okay, they are not taught or by as we say, by practitioners, okay? They are not the teacher of English, okay? And as a teacher of English, okay, when they come for us, okay, we find lots of, I cannot say that they are bad or false, but we have some ambiguity. Okay, I'm going just to give just an example. These beginners, okay, I taught lots and lots for them who are 11 and 12, okay, for example, in pronunciations. And as you know, okay, sir okay, and madam, pronunciation is the most important and outstanding thing, okay, yes, in English. For example, for lion, they say lion, yes, in French, okay, first of all. Yeah, the second is my colleagues, okay, who are not teacher of English, okay, and who are pushed between inverted commas by, let's say, by the Ministry of Education to give them lessons, okay, without giving them, as we say, lots of training, okay? We do not have these 3 Ps. Presentation is to present, practice, and produce. We don't have these a lesson in itself. We have the 3 stages, the pre, the while, and the pose, okay? And thanks a lot for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. I mean, this is a very serious problem, but what I would like to add or say here is we as teachers of English, we have to work on ourselves on improving, and this is a point where we tackled or we dealt with during our presentation. Um, the generation or the time that we are living in, we will have the technology and we have so many the social media. It allows us to develop more and more. So we shouldn't accept the status that we are in. We as teachers and you as teachers, we as supervisors and whatever, you shouldn't stop your learning. You should also look forward or aspire to develop yourself more and more. You shouldn't accept
Your voice, Mr. Bassam. Hello.
Hello.
hello, hello.
Hello.
Sorry, because of the electricity, the
Window.
It went off. I'm back with you from the phone. Are you with me? Can you hear me? Mrs. Shawqia?
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Okay. So as I said, I would like to continue on that point that we as teachers, we shouldn't stop at one specific period of time, our teaching or our improvement. We should also work on ourselves, on improving ourselves, on developing our skills. And believe me, this will help you. You shouldn't accept to be behind your students, especially in our age of technology and all of these sites that we have. So you should also work on improving yourselves as teachers in order to adapt to the new developments and technology that are there in the students' hands. Any other comments or questions?
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to participate. I think I have been suffering from internet, so I tried very early to join, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. But in points, I want to say something related to if how can we as teachers teach English effectively. The first and the most important and remarkable thing is that we have to prepare our students and the environment of teaching that language. Because without these two factors, we will not, for example, succeed in providing them with the most important language skills. And we cannot make it an integrated skills. So the most important thing is making the environment helpful. We have to prepare everything related to making it easier for them as facilitated or not as, for example, instructors. Uh, Also, we must motivate our students. Whenever we create, particularly using these tools, electronic tools, and these applications, which will make learning more authentic. So all these factors together will help us to create the most suitable environment for teaching and learning English language. Thank you so much. Khalid Ibrahim.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I agree with you totally. Since I agree with this, encouraging, urging, and motivating the students to answer and to be participants and to make them feel good about when they practice English or when they talk and when they give any, even if a simple answer, motivating, urging, and breaking the ice between you and your students will make them improve and they will try to be better and you will involve them in your classes. Yes, I agree totally with you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome.
I'd like to thank everybody in this session. Thank you for listening. You were good participants. I thank you again a lot.
Thank you, Miss Nasra. Thank you for your husband, Mr. Bassam, who delivered a great and fruitful presentation. Thank you another time and hope you to join us another time. Thanks another time for our attendees from all over the world. And now, if there is no question, we will stop recording and please try to fill the form for certification, and there is another form for the meeting as feedback. Yes.
Thank you so much, dear Shawqia, for giving us such a chance.
Thank you, Miss Nasra. Thank you. Welcome.
You're welcome.
We were very happy to join you.
Me too.
It was a
Yes.
pleasure to be speakers in this session, and we are already hoping that it was beneficial for all of you who attended this session.
Yes, inshallah. Yes, of course. It was very fruitful and we got many benefits from it. And we hope also the attendees get the same benefit. Yes, Mr. Ahmed Abdelal, you can leave. Taqabbal Allah in advance. Thank you, Miss Lena. Thanks. Yes. Miss Raisa, I sent the form here many times. You can fill it in order and you can write your name and your email correctly, and you will receive your certificate via your email that you wrote immediately. But please write it correctly. Thanks, Mr. Ahmed. Thanks. Yes, thank you, Mr. Bassam, another time, and Mrs. Nasra. You can leave if there is some work for you. Thank you. I will
Okay.
stop recording.
يعطيكم العافية.